Hello, spooky crew. Our tote bag drawing is officially closed, and we just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who entered. We are so grateful for the love and the support, and we have loved reading your reviews. Missed the tote? No worries. We're still sending out high-quality vinyl stickers while supplies last. Just email us proof of your rating and review along with your mailing address to thespookydarlings@gmail.com, and we'll get one headed your way. Quick promise, your address is only for mailing the sticker. No emails, no selling info, no funny business, just spooky gratitude. Thanks again for supporting the show. You are the reason we do this. You are listening to The Spooky Darlings, a podcast where three sisters get together and exchange stories that are equal parts fascinating and frightening. Today's episode is part 2 of our series on Jerry Brudos, so if you have not yet listened to part 1, go back and listen to that one first. A quick heads up, the tale you're about to hear was recorded a year ago in the early days of our podcasting adventure, and the sound is a little rough around the edges. In addition, we were recording this all from different houses, and there's a lot of holiday noises going on in the background. But we felt the content was worth sharing, so we hope you enjoy this throwback episode. And before we begin, a gentle warning, this episode wanders into some gruesome and graphic territory. You'll hear a soft piano chime right before these parts, along with a recommendation on how far to skip ahead if you'd prefer to pass on the graphic details. It sounds like this, and will be followed with a recommended amount of time to skip forward to avoid the things that you might not want to hear. We hope this helps. Sit back, relax, and enjoy part 2 of our series on Jerome Brudos. All right. Are we ready to kick this off?
Okay. Well, I'm going to introduce the show now. So
Hey.
you are listening to Crazy Creepy Cool. And this is episode 2 of serial killer Jerome Brudos.
Part 2.
Part 2.
I said episode 2.
Get it right.
So I know we've been chatting, but before we get started, is there anything we want to share with our listeners from our live sisters?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just everything's fine.
Yeah, we just finished Christmas. Not sure when this episode is going to come out, but
Yeah, it's like the in between Christmas and New Year's holiday.
I mean, now that we're getting started, I can share. Oh, go ahead, Haley.
Oh, I just was going to say, Zane just had a sleepover, so my house is quiet after a very rowdy night where last night around 12:30, in the middle of the night, there's this bam, 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 bam going on. And so Jason like barely wakes up. And so I'm just like, well, I better go make sure everything's okay. And the boys were playing Bloody Mary in the boys' bathroom.
Oh my goodness.
And locked one of the boys in the bathroom, so he was freaking out a little bit.
Have you talked to them about maybe not playing that game? That's a scary one.
Yeah, it is a scary one.
They play it at almost every sleepover, and they've never said that a scary lady shows up. So
They're not playing it right.
I tried to search for a Bloody Mary recipe this morning, and I put in bloody, and then the next prompt was axe wound. Like, who would have thought I wanted to see a bloody axe wound? And I was horrified by it.
That's
terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible. I didn't like it. I don't know. Yeah, maybe too much murder in my life. But yeah, I didn't care for that. Didn't care for it. I put my phone down. I walked away and improvised my Bloody Mary.
I can't even look up a recipe without being completely inundated with axe wounds.
And murder.
Yeah.
So, just reflecting on last episode, which I mentioned to you both earlier, but I have chuckled multiple times about how Haley was talking about the general increasing creepiness of Jerome Brudos. And then she was like, so then summer turned to autumn. I just got such a kick out of it. I even described it to Julia, and I was like, what a surprise lyrical turn of a phrase.
Summer turned to autumn in the picturesque Northwest.
I had like 4 different sources that I was like using and like switching between to
Uh-huh.
like try and like keep them all like caught up with each other. So I was like covering each thing like from different points of view of different research.
So
And
that makes
so
perfect sense then why you'd be like, so summer turned to autumn.
probably from Anne Rule's book.
Summer turned to autumn.
And then I go from Wikipedia to Mirderpedia.
Oh, did Anne
Um,
Rule write about Jerome Brudos too?
yeah, that's the Anne Rule book I'm reading, The Lust Killer. It's about Jerome Brudos, the killer that we will, I think, finish covering today.
Well, shall we get to it?
Let's get
Get to
into it. So, we ended the last episode just after he murdered Linda Slawson. And so there were a couple things that I did look up.
Wait, so
Because
Linda was the encyclopedia salesperson, right? The sales girl?
yes, yes,
And that
yes.
was his first
His first
Known
murder
murder
victim
that we know of.
that we know of.
And probably because I
So,
think he was pretty forthcoming, wasn't he? About
he would have never stopped if the cops hadn't done such a like good thorough job. He would have never been stopped. He would have kept killing.
No, I meant he was forthcoming as far as like admitting to murders.
Oh
Like,
yes, he
yeah.
loved talking about what he did.
He
So
wasn't one
I'm
of
just
those.
gonna do a couple corrections because so I know we had the basement versus garage confusion, and so the house that they were in when he murdered Linda Slawson had a basement, and then they moved to the house from Portland to Salem to the house where he would kill the next 3 victims in his garage. So
There we
I
go.
made sure to clarify that because that was really bothering me. And
Smart.
thank you. And so they're living in Salem in a house with a large detached garage. So the garage is not connected to the house, just through a little breezeway. And then, so he knows what he wants to do now. So he builds out this garage to his liking. And the garage is padlocked from the outside, so his family can't get in there. And he also occupied the attic where he would put the women's underwear and other various items, shoes that he would steal. He would keep those up there and also keeping the photos. And so the family couldn't go in the attic and the family couldn't go in the garage.
So
And he kept Darcy away from the attic by being like, it is filled with rats. You don't want to go up there. And kept Darcy out of the garage with his whole "this is my dark room" shtick. Okay.
So
So
listeners,
this
if
is the
you are
house.
married to someone or with someone that has rooms full of rats or dark rooms,
You're not seeing rats in the rest of the house. It's a lie.
it just might be something to explore. Just, find a reason to check out those rooms sometime or
And so this is also where Jerry's controlling behavior really escalates. He installs an intercom so that Darcy has to intercom in like, hey, could you bring the steak from the freezer when you come back inside or something like that? Or I need X, Y, and Z from the freezer. And this is also where he tells Darcy to always check in before coming home and where he has the line, I need time to kick the blonde out.
so
So
telling.
it is 10 months since he killed Linda Slawson. And on November 26th, 1968, Jerome Brudos comes across Jan Susan Whitney. And Jan, she was very pretty, short brown hair, about 5'7". She's 23 years old. She's very trusting. She has lots of friends and family. And so she's kind of driving around that like Portland, Salem, Eugene area. And she would pick up hitchhikers from time to time. And according to the outside, it looked like she just disappeared off the face of the earth. Her car left at a rest stop with no sign of her was found on an I-5 rest stop. And her family reported her missing as soon as they hadn't heard from her, which I think that time frame was about 2 days.
Oh,
So according to Jerry, he saw that she, with two other, I think they were hitchhikers, Jerry offered to help. And he was like, oh, you know what? Hop in my car. I can get this car up and going in just a little bit. All I have to do is go to my house and pick up some tools. And so he ditches the other two travelers, hitchhikers, as soon as possible. And then he takes Jan Whitney to his house, and he gets out of the car, and then he gets into the back of his car pretending he needed to get something from the back seat. So he climbs in, he's chatting with her while he's rummaging through some stuff. And then he gets her to close her eyes, saying, hey, close your eyes and describe to me how to tie a shoelace. So she complies, and this is when he strangles Jan Whitney until she dies.
And we know this because this is in his confession.
Yes.
Oh man, he probably felt so clever.
He loved talking about how he murdered these women because they were not human people to him. He never had remorse for what he did. So this part's really awful.
A quick, gentle warning. Skip ahead about 1 minute to avoid graphic details.
He takes her into his garage, and then he puts her in different outfits. And then he has a pulley system where he hangs her body, and it stays there for 2 days. And he takes photographs of the whole thing. And then,
oh man,
also particularly awful, sisters, he cuts off one of her breasts, thinking he could make it into a souvenir. Thinks he can turn it into a paperweight. The epoxy fails to set, so he fills it with sawdust and then nails it to a wooden board in his shop. And Darcy found this and asked Jerry about it, and he was like, oh, it's a novelty item. Come on, relax.
So she did go out there.
I think from time to time, probably with his permission.
I wonder if she was questioning, what are these pulleys for? What is this for?
I think Darcy was just blinders on, just like, I want the path of least resistance.
Yeah,
and probably
sounds like it.
He wasn't making her like vacuum nude in high heels anymore.
Yeah, as long as his attention was elsewhere.
Right.
So 5 days after killing Jan and keeping her body hanging in his garage, a car crashes into it, knocking a hole in the wall at ground level while they were out of town for Thanksgiving. Like, this is how brazen he was. He just left town, leaving a body in the garage. And
wait, say that part again. They left town. He left a body in the garage. Someone crashed. Who crashed?
A car. We don't know the person who crashed into his garage, but it knocked a hole in the wall at ground level. So like you kind of had to like kneel down and look in. And so a police officer like looks into the damage, looking into this murderer's garage. And it said due to the darkness inside and how cluttered and dusty it was, he couldn't see anything, not even the hanging, mutilated body of Jan Whitney in there.
Oh my goodness.
The police, they just kind of leave the scene alone. And when Jerome gets home, discovering that he had almost been exposed, he ties Jan Whitney's body to a scrap of railroad iron using electrical flex or a power cord, whichever term you prefer. I mean, most of us know it as power cord, I think. And then he threw her into the Willamette River, like Linda Slawson. And accompanying Jan's body that day or that evening was Linda Slawson's foot. And Linda Slawson,
his first victim,
never recovered. Yes.
Okay.
And so the police, they never stopped searching for Jan Whitney. And in the months after Jerry kidnapped and murdered her, Jerry's headaches came back and he was distant from his family. And Darcy began to contemplate leaving Jerry, but she didn't believe in divorce. It's just kind of that time where, like women, you don't leave your husband, blah, 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 And
yeah.
so, and like around this time, there were like I think, a handful of active serial killers. And so like people like on the specific subject of women going missing, they just talk about how women were disappearing left and right.
Right,
And
especially in the Pacific Northwest. Like there were a lot of active serial killers.
yeah. So it would be 4 months before Jerry would take another life. And on March 27th of 1969, Karen Sprinker was visiting her parents at home in Salem. She was a pre-med student, 19 years old. She had like very strong principles. She knew who she was. She was also very trusting, very hardworking. She was acing all of her pre-med classes. And she was meeting her mother, Ursula, for lunch at a local mall, and then they were going to go shopping. The
Oh,
lunch was scheduled for noon, and Karen was unfailingly prompt. She was never late. And so at 12:15, Karen's mom, Ursula, was puzzled, thinking, well, maybe she got held up in traffic. And then 12:30 arrived. She calls the house first, calls their home first. No one picks up. She leaves a note with the hostess up front. Hey, if my daughter arrives and is asking for me, just let her know that I went to look for her at home. So Ursula arrives home, no one is there. And so she calls her husband, Lucas. And so Ursula and Lucas, Karen Sprinker's parents, they start beginning to call all of Karen's friends. And then they start calling the nearby hospitals. And then finally they call the police. And after the police described Karen, the police took it very seriously. And so they began their search for Karen immediately that day. And the police officer who took the report from the parents while Ursula and Lucas were describing Karen, he said he just felt a chill go down his spine as they talked to him about their daughter. And just a quick note, a missing persons report is 24 hours takes 24 hours because the person who is missing usually shows up within the 24 hours. That way police resources aren't spent on someone who just decided to disappear for an afternoon,
yeah.
So after filing their report, the Sprinkers go home and they just wait by the phone and they stay up all night, just hoping to hear from Karen, hoping she would walk in the door and just be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And so the police eventually find Karen Sprinker's car on the top level of the shopping garage of the mall where Karen was meeting her mom for lunch. And the car was untouched. Police didn't find any trace of Karen. They only found her empty car. And the police taking note of everything around Detective Jim Stovall. He's on the case at this point. Unfortunately, when somebody who's a scary monster like Jerome Brudos is in this world, we need people like Jim Stovall. So some reports of a tall, large woman with red hair and freckles roaming the parking garage, wearing a dress with high heels, fidgeting with her girdle and nylons. And two high school girls who reported seeing this person said that they drove by twice to get a better look. That is how
Oh my goodness.
he stood out with what he was wearing. And so it's thought that Jerry, dressed up in women's clothes, went to the mall and waited for his victim to come to him. And the unfortunate victim was Karen Sprinker. He pulled a gun on her, said he wouldn't kill her if she came with him. And that sealed Karen's fate. And
so she showed up at the mall to meet her mom, parked in the parking garage, got intercepted by Jerome.
She was 60 seconds away from meeting her mom for lunch. And so Jerry got her into his car and back to his garage where, okay, you guys, this is really awful.
A quick, gentle warning, skip ahead about 1 minute to avoid graphic details.
She pleaded with him not to hurt her, and she would do anything he wanted if he just didn't hurt her. And Jerry asked if she was a virgin. She said she was, and Jerry forced her to strip, and he raped her on his garage floor. After the assault, Jerry forced her to put on different underwear and high heels and pose for him as he photographed her. Then he put a rope around her neck He asked her if the rope was too tight. She said yes, and then he used his pulley system to hang her. As she was dying, he went into his house, had lunch, watched TV, and once he got back to the garage, she was dead. He cut off both of her breasts, still wanting to make paperweights. And this one being more successful, he displayed on his mantle in the house.
Oh my goodness.
That is disgusting.
Ugh.
So
That-
horrific.
Yeah, this is like one of the worst things I've ever read. So that
That's
evening,
awful.
tied Karen Sprinker's body to a heavy object and threw her body in the Willamette River. And Darcy, Jerry's wife during this time, discovered some of the photographs in Jerry's dark room. And she says Jerry was getting more private and more demanding that nobody goes in the garage at this time. And so she sees these nude photos and asks Jerry why he has these nude photos. And he's like, some college kid asked me to develop them for him.
Were any of the photos, because he took photos of bodies.
What Darcy failed to notice or just completely ignored was that these photos were taken in her garage.
In the garage. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
sheesh.
And I mean, with his history of like temper tantrums and just like, he's just a big giant man baby. All Darcy did was say, well, please don't let the kids see them.
Darcy. Come on, Darcy.
Yeah. This comes up later. She does get charged like as an accessory, and she also gets like, let off about it. I think that's just about it, but that's after Jerry gets arrested. I mean, so she does experience some consequences for like not paying attention, but she does go home to her kids, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I don't think I have many more details than that, but
Okay.
if Jerry wasn't home, the garage was off limits. And during this time, after Karen Sprinker's murder, there are a couple of abductions that were reported. So Sharon Wood, a beautiful 23-year-old mother of two, and I saw an interview with her and like the photos of her from like back in the day. She just was a knockout. And mother of two, going through a divorce. She was trying to leave work to pick up her kids. And Sharon told her story on Close Encounters, Surviving a Serial Killer.
Is that a podcast or a TV show?
TV show. And I want to say I watched it on Amazon Prime. So she was looking for her keys while she was at work and couldn't find them. She was like, oh, maybe I left them in my car, because it's the late 60s where you can leave your keys in your car and no one will steal it. Asked a fellow coworker to cover for her while she just dashed across the street to the parking structure to see if her keys were there. And Sharon forgot where she had parked. And so she's just going through parking level after parking level. I mean, I've been there. That's why
I've been there. Yeah.
with my cell phone, I now take photos of where I park. But
I do too.
she just checking level after level, and she came to a darker spot of the parking structure and felt a presence behind her. And she glanced back and saw a person there, and they would stop when she would stop. And then she felt a tap on her shoulder. And she said the man asked, you too, like he was also lost looking for his car. And she said she just felt the need to get away. She just wanted to go and get her kids. And Jerry pulled a gun on her, ordering her not to scream. And she screamed and she tried to run. He grabbed her by her hair. She fought back, and his thumb, she got his thumb in her mouth and bit down.
Good
hard.
Girl. Good
and then
girl.
she had that like frozen thing where she couldn't release his thumb. And so he starts bashing her head against the concrete floor. She releases his thumb. He runs away just as a car starts to drive by.
So he ran away because the car drove by. He's like, I'm out. Oh my gosh, thank God for the car.
Because Sharon fought back, he doesn't want a woman who's going to fight back. He wants a submissive person. And the car drove by. It was all just right at the right time. And then Sharon, she was like, I mean, they had to have seen this big hulking man run away from me, and they just drove on by. And so, that probably stand by or like what's that effect?
It's called the stander by effect.
Bystander?
Bystander.
Bystander.
I think stander by has a better
By
name.
the way.
Well,
Stander by the way.
I mean, I do wonder, like, who was in the car, because I got, like, I always tell my girls, it's not your job to stop and help anyone on the side of the road. If you see someone in distress, you can call the cops. But like, if there's
Yes.
somebody on the side of the road, like when you're driving
Yeah.
alone, like you, a young woman, that is not your job or your responsibility. But I don't know. It's like, who was it? What was her name again? Sharon?
Sharon Wood. And Jerry would later call her that bitch that nearly broke my thumb. Yeah, he is the worst. So Sharon, shaken, obviously, went back to her office, told her coworker what happened. And I think she said it was a man. And her coworker accompanied her back to the parking garage to just kind of look around.
Yeah.
And so
Wait, so
Sharon
was Jerry dressed as a woman at this time again, or was he?
Sharon did not say he was dressed as a
Okay.
woman. I think he was just in his frumpy clothes, as most people
Okay.
describe him as a bad dresser. And so the next day, after he assaults Sharon Wood, the next day he tries to take a 15-year-old girl at gunpoint. And he says to her, I want you to come with me. I won't rape you. And grabs her by the back of her coat. They're walking
Where?
in a neighborhood. And so
Okay.
as they're walking, he's walking her back to the car. She's like, hey, could you just let my coat go? I'm coming with you. Can you just let go of my coat? And as they were walking outside, the 15-year-old sees an older woman in her yard, and she starts yelling and running to this older woman. And Jerome runs off because he's a coward.
Oh,
And I hate this guy. Okay.
well, I'm glad that he was a coward. So glad he ran
Yeah.
off.
And so the 15-year-old also reports this to the police. And so the police are now starting to get this consistent description. An older, frumpy, kind of overweight guy, red hair, freckles, pockmarks on his face from his horrible acne. And then there was another, I didn't see this anywhere except for just in one source, but he tried to grab a 12-year-old girl. She also got away. And so he's
Oh
just
my
like,
gosh.
I'm having trouble with these older women who are fussy and fight back. So I'm just going to go younger and younger. Thank goodness that didn't work.
Thank the
So
Lord.
with the failed abductions leaving Jerry frustrated, Jerry decides to purchase a fake cop outfit that must have looked real enough, because when he approached Linda Dawn Saley, she's 22 years old, she disappears on April 23rd, 1969. She's 5'1", she's athletic, she's very beautiful. She won a Miss Smile contest, and she
Oh,
dated her boyfriend, longtime boyfriend. They were about to get engaged. They were both very into fitness, and her boyfriend is a lifeguard who she was on her way after shopping for her boyfriend's birthday. She was on her way to go for her like swimming session at the pool where her boyfriend worked. And as soon as the boyfriend realized that like Linda wasn't showing up, he contacts the family, and then the police are contacted from there. Okay, so Jerry, with his fake cop uniform, approaches her and says, hey, we're investigating a shoplifter. You fit the description. You're coming with me.
oh no.
It goes.
Don't fall for it, girls. Didn't Ted Bundy do the exact same thing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like,
He did that. And one of his victims that he did that to got away.
oh,
So
jeez.
Jerry said that Linda did not say a word on the hour drive from this Portland shopping center to his house in Salem. And then he takes her into his garage, he ties her up, and he leaves her there, and he went to eat dinner. When he comes back, he finds that Linda had broken free from her bonds, but just sat there.
She just must have been in shock.
I think it's called frozen fright, and it's actually not an uncommon reaction to this happening where
Fight, flight, or freeze.
Yep. And so finding Linda just sitting there like in his gross mind, almost waiting for him, and she's experiencing frozen fright, where a victim thinks that nothing they do will set them free.
A quick, gentle warning, skip ahead about 1 minute to avoid graphic details.
Jerry ties her back up, put the rope on the pulley system, and pulls her up. And so he kills Linda, does what he always does with the bodies, and then he puts her body back up on the pulley system, takes needles, sticks them in her rib cage, and then he runs electricity through her body. And in his own words, he wanted to see her jump like a frog in a skillet. And according to Jerry, it didn't work. And he keeps the body for 24 hours and then ties her body to a Chevy transmission and throws her over the Bundy Bridge into the Willamette River. And then 2 months later, Jerry Brudos would be behind bars. So after this, Jerry is kind of like in, like, I just need my next victim mode. He's escalating, ramping up. And so he starts like roaming the campus at Oregon State University while also calling women's dorms at Oregon State University, asking for random name, like Susan, Cheryl.
Just choosing a common name and calling.
And then he would
Wait,
get
do you know what year this was?
1969.
1969, okay.
So it's like a hallway phone,
Yeah.
And then he would get a woman on the phone and he would say he was a Vietnam vet and had ESP. Now, this worked on one girl. And the girl later was like, well, I kind of just felt bad for him. And so
she's a survivor.
Yes. So the murders are over. Jerry does not murder another person. That we know of. So he asks her to go for coke and conversation. And this is around the time where Linda's body would be the first to be found, followed by Karen Sprinker.
Okay.
So
far, disappearances had been racking up, but bodies had not been found at this point.
As far as Jerome Brudos' victims go, yes.
Okay.
These bodies are discovered. The police are on it. They're looking at the evidence, all this stuff. Meanwhile, Jerry is stalking Oregon State University campus. And so this girl...
I think Dad was at school there at this time, 1969?
Yes.
Okay.
On this date that Jerry took this poor young girl on, and he just is a creep the whole time. And I'll tell you how creepy he was. So he says to her on the date, I want you to be sad. Why don't you think of those 2 girls who were found in the river? And then, like, being a creep on the date the whole time. And then he ends the date by asking, how did you know I wouldn't take you to the river and strangle you? So this girl goes back to her dorm, immediately calls the police. She's like, you gotta look into this guy. And Jerry was like, he didn't use his real name, but he's like, hey, I'm gonna call you again. So so we can go out again. And the police were like, if he calls you, you delay and you call us. And that is exactly what she did, because 11 days later, Jerry calls her back and says, hey, I'm going to pick you up in 15 minutes. Come meet me outside. And she goes, no, I need to wash my hair first. You can pick me up in an hour. So she insists on the hour, and he finally relents. And
okay, good.
So on May 25th, Jerry Brudos walks into the lounge of this Oregon State University dorm, and he just doesn't see his date. So he sits down and he just starts to wait. And the police approach him. He had no reaction. He stayed calm. And the police asked for his name. He gave it, Jerry Brudos. They asked where he lived. He told them. And the police officers aren't seeing like any stress, like he's not worried about this. And so as the police are questioning him, he admits to being married and having kids. And so, right now, everything they have is circumstantial on this guy. And so he was not arrested, but he leaves the lounge after being questioned by the police, does not even try and wait for his so-called date, who was definitely not coming down to meet him.
Do you think he knew, though, that she had sent the police? Like, do you think he was like, oh, okay, she's not coming. She called the
I,
cops.
yeah, I think so. I
Probably.
Yeah.
mean, how could he not think that? So
Yeah.
the police were sure they had their man. And so now they started closing in on him. They did their research, they found his record, and there were just too many coincidences. His proximity to the women when they started going missing. His first victim, Linda Slawson, it was in a different part of Oregon. It was in Portland, and he was living in Salem, but he lived in Portland at the time and in the neighborhood where she was like canvassing to sell encyclopedias.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then he moves to Salem, and that's where it's too close proximity to those victims who go missing. And so the police are looking for their physical evidence that can
Hmm.
connect him to these murders. And so the detective that interviewed him in Jerome Brudos's own garage where he killed these women said that the garage was ordinary, but also made his hairs stand up on end. And he said Brudos seemed like a loser, like he was picked last in grade school for any sport on the playground. And,
Well, and didn't
maybe
you say,
they're being kind of mean, but at this point, it's just like, no, this guy sucks. He is a
yeah,
loser.
you
Hmm.
said, if I remember, you said last time that like when his classmates were interviewed, they don't remember him.
Yeah, they don't
Like
remember.
just
Like Jerome.
unremarkable,
Yeah.
unmemorable.
And then the police noticed materials that were similar to the things found on the women in the Willamette River. The exact same knot that the women were tied up with. And Jerry was like, "Oh, take some of this rope, no problem." And like one of the police officers says they took one of the knots that Jerry had tied in his own garage, took this for evidence, and Jerry handed it right over to him. It's like that narcissistic, delusional thing of like, no one
Yeah, he
can
didn't
touch
think they'd
me. I'm
catch
too
him.
special. And
Mhm.
Yeah,
so,
or do you think he just was like, if I get caught, I get caught?
no, because even when he was arrested and in prison, he still thought he was going to get out and get away with it.
Okay, I remember something from a different podcast I listened to with this woman that he went on the date with, the one that ended up turning him in. I remember tell me if you remember this. He asked her like what he thought right and wrong was, and he told her that he thought right and wrong was completely up to the individual to decide what was good and what was bad. And she thought that that was like a really weird conversation, like his
I
view on
think that
morality.
I think that was in Ann Rule's book too. That
Okay.
sounds familiar, but I don't know for sure. So after this, the police put detail on him. They started following him wherever he went, and it drove Jerome Brudos crazy because he couldn't do his stalking the way he wanted. And Darcy
So
seemed,
he was aware. He was aware that he was being followed then.
yes, because it was
Okay.
like it was a cop car, two people kind of waiting outside your house, even though if like it's a plane car and then they, start following you. And so Darcy seems to be unaware of any of this. And on Wednesday, May 28th, 1969, a search warrant was served to go through the vehicles. So Jerome's car was processed. And on May 30th, Darcy and her family are seen leaving Corvallis. And so the police pounce. They're like, Jerry can't get out of town. He can't get out of the country. We got to get him now. And so the police pulled the car over, and Darcy was just like, what did I do wrong? Jerry was found hiding in the back of the car under a blanket, pretending to be asleep, and they were headed for Canada.
Darcy.
Ooh,
I mean,
As
Let's be honest, Jerry, you
Jerry.
asshole.
Yeah. So as Jerry was booked, he had to strip and change into jailhouse clothes. And it was noted he was wearing women's sheer silk panties. And Jerry, seeing that the cops were kind of looking at him, he was like, "Oh, my skin is super sensitive, so I need to wear special women's underwear." And the cops, according to, report, kept it professional. They didn't say anything. And then upon being in jail and questioned by detectives, Jerry confessed very quickly to everything and then later would confess in detail. But still, Jerry stayed confident he would get out of jail. He called his lawyer and then he was like, oh, someone tried to poison me. I got sick. And then he tried to go for not guilty by reason of insanity at first. Jerry called Darcy to burn all of the clothes he had in the garage and in the attic. And Darcy was like, wait, what? What clothes in the garage?
Darcy, say no. Say no, Darcy.
And so when she figured it out, she only burned some. And it is speculated that she burned some was that so if Jerry did get out, she could say, no, I did try to help you. I burned these things.
She really must have been quite scared
Terrified?
of him. Yeah.
I assume so.
So the photo that was the nail in Jerome Brudos' coffin of jail or whatever that sealed his case was the photo of a mirror under a victim who was hanging. And Jerry's face is also in the mirror.
Such a creep.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So finding Jerry's photo, and with how Darcy was in this whole process, the police charged Darcy as being an accessory. And Darcy was found not guilty by a jury after 7 hours of deliberation. So that went to trial. And
Really? They must have
after-
recognized just the control he had
Yeah.
on her.
Yeah. So Darcy, after this whole ordeal, she changed her name, changed the children's names, and they moved away from Salem, Oregon.
Good girl. Those kids deserved a fresh start.
Yeah. So finally, on June 27th of 1969, and so this is a month after the police like zero in on him, Jerry pleads guilty to 3 counts of first-degree murder, sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences. He is never granted parole. And he was interesting. He was popular with the staff, not the inmates. Jerry lived the rest of his life in prison, dying of liver cancer in 2006.
I hope he got beat up regularly. Can I just say that?
Me too. And 1 month after he pled guilty, the body of Jan Whitney was found tied to a piece of railroad iron in the Willamette River.
Okay, so what year was he arrested?
1969.
1969. Okay.
And due to the wonderful detective work of Jim Stovall and his team, they were able to catch Jerome Brudos before he could hurt or take any other innocent life.
So I just was gonna say, Haley had gotten this this little anecdote from our father, who was a little bit connected. I know we mentioned earlier that he was on the Oregon State campus, probably around the time that he was stalking his his potential victim, the one that called the police. But this is what our dad wrote about it. 1972 or close to it. Our father's friend, Margie Huda, got this idea to put on a show. It was in dental school at the time and invited to participate. So they ended up with about 8 people concocting up a show that was full of Christmas songs, a few current songs. And they got a really great musician that they knew that was a little older, in her late 30s, to write the music. And they named
Oh my gosh, it was original music? I didn't know that.
No, she made up the accompaniment.
Oh,
So
okay.
they kind of did I think it was picture medley. So it was like classic Christmas songs, current Christmas songs for the day, right? Like
We'll do a
70s.
demonstration later.
At our live show.
So they called themselves the Vintage Fruitcake Company's St. Nicholas Traveling Nut Review. And Dad did not include this part, but when he told me the story, he mentioned that they all wore really, really tight pants.
Which gave a whole new meaning to
the Traveling Nut Review.
Yeah.
So they organized a tour, and somebody scheduled a tour to go over to a children's hospital, a school for blind kids. And then the Boys Reform School in McLaren, and then eventually to the state penitentiary in Salem. So the pen was the last on their tour, and all of the inmates really appreciated it. Some of the inmates spoke to them after the review, and then they heard that our father was a dental student, and they suggested that they needed help there with dental treatment. Like, a lot of the people there didn't feel like they were getting adequate dental treatment. So after leaving, doing their traveling nut review with their tight pants, they got together with a few like-minded students at the dental school and asked permission to go over to the penitentiary to do some visits. when they got there, the dentist on staff at the penitentiary was happy to have them come. It was just one guy serving all these inmates, so he was happy to have help. They found the inmates to be grateful and chatty. But one thing he recalls is that there was this, you've probably heard of it, the social structure in prison where, they would jokingly call each other molesters, but then like that was like a good-natured name, but then like the actual social structure, like they would jokingly call each other's rapos or molesters, but then like actually the actual rapos and molesters were like the bottom of the totem pole in the hierarchy there, right? So,
Right.
I mean, right, our dad included this. They would jokingly call each other's molesters and rapos, but you wouldn't actually really call somebody that unless you were either friendly and joking or like really trying to offend them, right? So the social ladder was like the very bottom were the child molesters and rapists that had no respect. Women killers were also at the bottom. So you can imagine, as it turns out, Jerome Brudos was in this penitentiary and was at the bottom of this totem pole.
Yeah.
So Dad ended up having an appointment with Jerome Brudos. Dad had read about them, knew a lot just because it was in the news where he was. So this was 1972. It was 3 years in. So
that's fresh. That's very
Dad
fresh.
Dad knew from the news the depravity of what Jerome Brudos had done. So he came in, and apparently Jerome Brudos wasn't housed with the other inmates for fear of being killed by them due to his notoriety and his perversion. Dad says he was a pale, clammy, flabby man who didn't speak much, and Dad felt two overwhelming emotions in his presence. The first is absolute revulsion at him and his crimes. The second was pity for his miserable existence. And Dad says, I confess, I was glad to see him leave the operatory after I was done treating him. And he says some of the inmates were eager to ask me after if I did anything to cause him pain, like, did you stick it way under his gums and twist it good? And Dad says, no, I did not, nor did I feel the slightest inclination to do so. And I have never felt such an inclination, no matter who the patient is.
Oh, he's a good.
I love our dad.
He's a good dentist. He cares about that Hippocratic oath. He takes it seriously.
Certainly he does. But can you imagine having like just, it would feel like the devil in your chair, right? Like that just evil, knowing so fresh in your mind what they'd done and having to treat them with, with compassion and care like you would any other person. Like it's a chilling story.
Speaking of prison hierarchy, I don't know if you saw this in the news, but do you guys remember a few years ago, there was a couple, and they were a gay couple, two men who got married, and then they adopted two little boys, like ages 5 and 6, from like a Christian adoption agency. And then they found out later that these two men were not only sexually abusing their boys, but also trafficking these little boys. And just now, one of them, they both got like put in prison for a super long time. Like it was awful what they were doing to these kids. Put in prison for a super long time. And one of them has been complaining that he's being assaulted and beat up regularly. And no one has any pity for him. I don't know what's happening, but no one has any pity for him because they're like, do you think that what you're experiencing now, does that make you think about what these little boys went through?
That's awful.
It's awful. And this is what like it was like a TikTok I saw, but the guy that did the TikTok was an ex-inmate and he was gay. And he's like, you need to understand that the people in prison, like there's a lot of gay men in prison who are really strong and really tough. And they're super upset at what this couple did to the gay community who had fought so hard for so long to be able to get the right to like have adoption and to be able to do this.
To have a family, like,
yeah.
And they abused that family.
It just made me think of it when you were talking about the prison hierarchy because like these two lowest of the low because they're hated by everybody. They were child molesters. They're hated by Christians because they used a Christian adoption agency and like went under the pretense of being Christian. So any like group in Christian that's like, well, I'm a born again Christian and now I'm, living right. They're mad at them. The gay community's mad at them. And then just the general population who hates child molesters and thinks they're the lowest of low. So both of these guys are rightfully getting targeted. And of course, I want to say I know that when a prisoner is in our system, they deserve to be protected. Like that's a right. I don't know deserve is the right word, but it's a right to be protected. And I'm sure that the prison system is taking it seriously, but it's
I
not
just,
without a little satisfaction that I heard this.
I hope those kids are being taken care of. The kids that they,
I hope so too. From what I heard, they were adopted into a different family.
geez Louise, that just, it breaks your heart.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
awful. I don't remember. I think it was like 2 years ago. So terrible. They were so callous about it. Like one of them would say, "Well, what are you doing?" You'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go have sex with my son." Literally say that.
Ugh, I hate that.
Little 6-year-old boys.
Rose, where did you hear about this?
I
This
read
is
it in the
horrible.
news a few years ago.
I hate that so much.
It was awful. It just was terrible. And part of it was like the how it was such a like a one-time thing, like I mean, I'm sure it's happened other times, but like it's one couple who did this, but all of these gay couples who had fought so hard for the right to adopt and to form their families are
The repercussions of these sick people and their
Mhm.
actions just really harms other people who have good intentions and they want to have a healthy, loving family.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because that
Yeah.
is the majority. That is the majority of people.
Yeah.
And ugh,
It is. It's really sad. I'm glad they're being punished, and I hope those
yeah,
little boys recover and are okay.
seriously.
Yeah. So, Jerome Brudos, creep.
Woo!
Such a
So let's
creep.
try and end on a positive note.
Oh, I have a
Yeah.
scary, speaking of positive notes, I have a scary kid tale if
Oh,
you want.
yay.
If you want.
Yay.
But you guys can also talk about other positive things. It's going to take me a minute to
You,
find it.
okay. Positive note. After this today, I'm just going to clean my house, listen to the podcast, The Brighter Side. That's always funny. And it's just my house is in desperate need of cleaning. It is a mess from Christmas.
Hmm.
That's such a bright
Yeah.
side.
Yeah. So messy house, gonna clean it.
Found it. You ready?
Okay.
Or did you want to say anything, Emily, about your house?
My house is fine.
I'm at my mother-in-law's. It's as clean as any house can be.
Perfect.
Nice.
I will not talk about my house back at home. Okay, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
This is
Hmm.
called The Bobos, and I don't think this is one I've read yet. So this is from Creepy Kids Reddit.
Okay.
From I Have 30 Teeth is the username 4 years ago. My 4-year-old son started to talk about an imaginary friend named Bobo when he was about 3.5. He would say things about what Bobo tells him or where he saw Bobo playing. So I asked him what Bobo looks like, and he said, just like me, but with black hair. My son is blonde. Bobo started to become a more frequent topic. He would say things like, Bobo is at the door, let him in. To which my husband opened the door and said, oh, come in, Bobo. Ha ha ha, we all laugh. Recently, about 2 months ago, my son told me Bobo looks different. He has alligator's teeth and skin. He keeps talking about the things Bobo does and will say, Bobo is at the door. Then one day goes, Bobo has a friend. I asked him what Bobo's friend's name was, and he says, his name is Bobo too. We also moved recently, and for the first 2 weeks or so, he would say, the Bobos don't know where I live. Now this week he stopped mid-play and goes, do you hear that? I need to get the door. The Bobos are here. He runs to the door and opens it and counts to 16 and then says, wow, 16 Bobos. Now he's making a picture with glitter glue for his friends. Why do they have to have such a creepy name? And that's how it ends. It made me think of incidents around the house, which I knew we had talked about. So then I was like, did I tell this? Does someone have the hiccups?
Yeah.
Taylor.
Are you
No.
hiccuping?
No.
Oh, are you hearing a hiccup, Emily?
I hear
I thought
background
so.
noise from somewhere.
I was hearing like a very regular,
I thought I heard hiccups, but
yeah, I did too, through the whole thing. And honestly, they
That's
sounded like your
amazing.
hiccups, Haley.
you know what? To me, it sounded like the Bobos.
No, those are what I
Uh-oh.
call my sneezes.
Alligator teeth. Isn't that scary?
That's
So
creepy.
Hmm.
he's starting to change how he looks. Instead of looking
Kind
like
of,
me with black hair, he has alligator teeth and skin.
but Nettie, it kind of reminds me of when Natalie was a little kid and she had Bubba. She'd be like, oh,
Bubba.
Bubba. And like
Bubba.
draw
Papa.
photos and then cover up Bubba.
Yeah, she would. Yeah, it was very similar. Anyways, I thought that
Yeah.
was creepy. So
Yeah.
a creepy fun note. I don't know.
Super creepy
I
fun.
think that was great. I love that.
I liked it too.
Also, I've joined a gym. I've got a personal trainer. I don't know if I've already told you guys that.
No.
Good job.
Whom is it?
Um,
Who is it?
she's just like she is very knowledgeable about like weight training, which is what my doctor said I need to add into my routine, being a woman about to be 40. So, yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Good job.
Yeah. Awesome. That'll be fun. What gym?
Just Anytime Fitness.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Love that for you.
Can you guys hear yelling in the background like every few
Yeah.
minutes? It's that they're
Yeah.
playing apples to apples.
Oh, fun.
I love that game.
Love that game.
Yeah, so every time someone says, I choose this one, they all go, oh, it's so funny because when we were explaining the rules to apples to my little 11-year-old cousin, Isaac and Theo both go, oh, so like Cards Against Humanity. And I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
shush. Shush, you
Children?
two.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
I was like, yes, just like that, but a little different. Well, Isaac was like,
Oh
oh,
my
it's
gosh.
based on Cards Against Humanity. And I'm like, well, I think Cards Against Humanity might have been based on apples to apples, but same rules.
Similar rules. That's too funny.
It's
All
fun.
right. I'm going to just sign out for us real quick. So, thank you for listening to Crazy Creepy Cool. If you have any questions, comments, corrections, or stories of your own, email us at crazycreepycoolthepod@gmail.com and rate, review, subscribe, leave us 5 stars. We love a 5-star review. And we look forward to next time. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Spooky Darlings. And just as a reminder, during the building phase of this podcast, we went by a few different names, one of them being Crazy Creepy Cool, but our official name is The Spooky Darlings. And if you have any questions or comments, please don't email us at crazycreepycool. Instead, email us at thespookydarlings@gmail.com. That's thespookydarlings, all one word, @gmail.com. Happy holidays, and we will be back next week. Goodbye. Merry Christmas. 5 stars. Before we disappear into the shadows, don't forget, we're still sending out vinyl stickers. Leave us a rating and review and email us proof to thespookydarlings@gmail.com along with your mailing address, and we'll send you some spooky snail mail while supplies last. And if your heart is still mourning that tote bag, may we gently tempt your way toward our merch store at thespookydarlings.printful.me. Treat yourself. You deserve it. Thanks for listening. And as always, stay spooky.